This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
1875. The wine had come from a vineyard 40 miles east of Los Angeles in Rancho Cucamonga, from grapes that had been planted as early as 1839. California was part of Mexico then, and the area around Los Angeles, not Napa and Sonoma, produced the bulk of the state's wine. The Cucamonga vineyard was widely lauded for producing some of the best wine in California. Numerous wooden boxes of the wine had been handed down through the generations. I hadn't owned the particular bottles that were destroyed in the fire, although I had a few at my home in Berkeley. Another branch of the family had inherited most of the wine, and a cousin had sent the bottles to a winemaker friend in St. Helena for assessment. He had kept the boxes of wine in his caves tunneled into the Mayacamas Mountains for months, but got worried that the humidity would ruin the labels. So, when he moved his own wine cases to the wine's central warehouse, he moved her historic wine as well. He had been convinced that there was no safer place for the wine than the old Navy bunker with its thick earthquake-proof walls. That must have been one agonizing phone call to make, the one to my cousin, telling her that all her wine had been destroyed. To me, the loss of the wine felt like the severing of my past, something I had been trying to grab onto for as long as I could remember. I came from a pioneer California family, but had been ripped from its embrace after my parents' divorce when I was 2. In hindsight, I spent much of my life chasing after the security I imagined an intact home would have provided. When the wine burned, I felt like one more link to my father, who had died when I was 16, and his side of the family had disappeared. It's not that I didn't seek ways to dig deeper into my roots. I researched the life of the man who made the wine, my great-great-grandfather Isaias W. Hellman, and published a book in 2008 about his rise to prominence. He had been a poor Jewish immigrant when he immigrated to Los Angeles in 1859, and had eventually become a successful banker and financier, even assuming control of Wells Fargo Bank. My research meant that I became the family historian and genealogy expert, the one everyone called to figure out how we were related to this person or that. The loss of the wine prompted me to think harder about what it had taken to succeed as a winemaker in the 19th century, when there were no stainless steel tanks, or packaged native yeasts, or Facebook to connect with customers. Where was Rancho Cucamonga, the place the wine was produced, anyway? I started to do research and found that the Franciscan Fathers, the men who trekked north from Mexico to found missions and colonize the area, were the first to produce wine in California. They essentially enslaved the Native Americans to plant the vines, pick the fruit, and then stomp the grapes suspended in cowhides. The Californios, the native-born Mexicans of the state, as well as the earliest American settlers, were no kinder to the Native Americans. The wine in California was not particularly good in the 19th century. It was made with mission grapes brought here in 1778. The wine was a deep red, but was low in acidity, making it taste flat and dull. It was livened up with sugar and brandy, and on occasion more ominous adulterants. Making wine back in California in the 19th century was a fool's errand, an easy way to lose money fast. Yet believers had stuck with it and carved out a respectable industry, despite the boom and bust cycles that seemed to hit every decade. But winemaking also brought out men's avarice and search for power. In the late 1880s and 1890s, a group of men, including my ancestor, had created the California Wine Association, a long-forgotten monopoly that bullied small wineries into submission. The company eventually controlled more than 80% of the wine production in California and constructed the largest winery in the world on the edge of San Francisco Bay. Prohibition put it out of business. It took decades to rebuild American interest in wine and create one of the largest wine economies in the world, worth an estimated $24.6 billion in 2014. What, I began to wonder, drove this passion? What kind of determination did it take to make something wonderful from a bunch of grapes?